And this is, I tell this story often because there's a show called Hoarders, and if you've never seen the show Hoarders, it's a disorder, right? This hoarding is a emotional disorder ultimately, but also mental, but an emotional disorder because people tend to create attachment to certain things, right? They create attachment to even the smallest thing in the world, but they has this, they don't know where they're going to see it again. They don't know how. They don't know where they got it from, but it has a memory or has something attached to it. So they produce this attachment that so much so that everything in their house becomes disgusting and just overflowing and just essentially filled with garbage. And if you've ever seen the show Hoarders, it's like, how do people live like that? Like, how do they live with so many things that are causing so much mess and so much dirt and so much stink, and they literally can't live in their own home effectively, even use the toilet effectively, because there's so much they're packing. I believe that a lot of people are emotional hoarders. Like, we are shameful hoarders. We hold on to things and to memories because they're attached to certain people or to certain moments, and we're afraid that if we let this thing go, that it's going to let go of that particular person or moment or memory or going to make us not be accountable for the things that we've done. I believe that a lot of people are struggling with this because they've become so accustomed to it that they're unaware that they're hoarding. And they're hoarding their emotions, they're hoarding their shame, they're hoarding memories in hopes that they never have to let go of that particular season. They'll never have to let go of that particular person, that particular job, that particular feeling that they had. For a lot of people, we struggle to let go of the weight of shame, the weight of guilt, because we keep it with us. We make home where all this stuff is. And it becomes this huge part of our identity. You're not the worst thing that you've ever done, but you are responsible for becoming who you become after it. Like, you are not the things that you lived in your past. You're not what you've been said about. You're not your biggest flaws and mistakes. Everyone has a chance. Everyone has redemption. This is why I love being Christian. I love the gospel, because every person has a moment to be redeemed. You have a moment right now, even, to accept who you fully are and not who you've been told you have to be. To accept the fullness of the gift that you've been given, the ability, the talent, the reality of letting yourself be who you are and not being a hoarder of your emotions, not hoarding how you're feeling, not dwelling and living in a place that you already rescued from. Too many people live so deeply in their shame that they never know who they fully are. They live their whole lives in the things that they've done and the mistakes that they've been in and the things that aren't even their identity, but they've been imprinted with this so deeply that this is who they really believe. You really believe that you are your shame. Like, you really believe that you're your brokenness. You really believe that you aren't worthy. And this is the biggest lie that would ever happen, because let's just pretend that you believe that there's a devil. And if there is a devil, his one goal is to make you believe that you're not full. Because if you're broken, you're easy to manipulate. This is why people, when they're psychotic, the people that they go after typically are the broken people. Because they don't fully know who they are. They've identified themselves so deeply and so rooted with their wounds that their wounds are all they've identified their whole life with. It's the only thing that they gravitate around. But you're not those things. You're not your shame. You're not your brokenness. You are who you are choosing to be today. And like, when I mean today, I mean like right now, as you're listening to this podcast, as you're watching this video, whatever it is, this very moment, you are free of all that shame. The question is, do you believe it and accept it? Or are you going to vindicate the same excuses you've been living with because you don't want to let it go? That show Hoarders, they did that often. They would begin to categorize certain things and say, well, no, this was given to me on this day, or they no longer make this or this and that. They'll keep making excuses as to why they want to keep holding on to their pain. Why are you making excuses for the pains, the shame, and the past that you need to let go of? You're not there anymore. And if this is something that we haven't even struggled with yet, at some point we'll look back and say, man, I'm in something, or I went into something that made me feel like I was inadequate. We have to learn to let go of these things. Regret is just the past trying to drag you back into that version of you. You're no longer that person. That person no longer exists. So we want to talk about these practical things. Just a few things that maybe to actually, because one of my biggest goals is to do this with this podcast, is to look for practical things that are science-backed that can help us really just let go of this regret. So admit what happened without dressing it up. Now, this might be hard for some people because, again, even though we're dwelling in it and we're living in it, we don't want to identify what it fully is. So, whatever that shame is, whatever that guilt is, whatever the mistake you did, admit it. Like, straight up, what was it? What did I do? And what happened? And allow yourself to see that thing, to say, this is where I messed up, this is where I was flawed, this is where I failed, or this is what this thing was. Name what it cost you emotionally. Now, this is a big one because I want you to look at what that's costing you now. For some people, it's costing them their future marriages. Like, I know people personally. Again, these conversations are not new. These are things that people have spoken to me about. And I know people that are so wounded and so stuck in their hurt and their shame and their past that they're ruining anything possible for their future. They're burning bridges with people that they need in the future. They're burning their future marriages, their future careers, their future friends. They're burning those things because they're still stuck in a person that they aren't, in a place that they weren't meant to be. So name what it's costing you emotionally. Is it costing you a career? Is it costing you friendships? Is it costing you your personal relationship with yourself? Do you love you less because of this thing? Identify the version of you who made that choice, because you're not that person anymore. You wouldn't feel shameful if you were still them. Like, you wouldn't feel remorse for doing the thing you did if you were still that person. So identify why. Why were you there? What were you struggling with? Because sometimes how this helps us is looking at that person and saying, well, they were that way because they were battling this, battling that. And when you're able to identify yourself as that person and not just as you actually will give yourself more grace. That same first point that we talked about. It's easier for us to forgive people than it is for us to forgive ourselves. So when we look at that person that we were and we say, well, this is what they were going through. Like, we show empathy for them. And we say, we understand why you were there. This is the first part to healing yourself, to forgiving yourself, is to know that you are a person. And that person was going through things. And they were in a season where they were being hurt, or they were hurting. So they did the things they did, or they responded the way they responded, or they were feeling the way they were feeling because of other exterior things. And you're able to forgive them because it's not you. You're not them anymore. You're here. Replace self-punishment with accountability. Like I said, it's not that this thing goes away and that you don't care about it anymore, but you become accountable. I did these things. I messed up. I was hurt. I failed. But I'm not that person anymore. Redirect your energy into actions that prove you've changed. This is a big one because we're afraid to do certain things. Afraid to move certain ways, afraid to speak to certain people, afraid to dive into certain things because we still think we're that person. So when we start doing things that are new, we start redirecting how we change, how we respond, how we live, it identifies with us, our current us, a lot more than with our previous us.